Thanks, Askin Corley. And I want to thank everybody who's come into the Chamber for this very important debate and on the motion which has been presented here this afternoon. I will speak in support of the Government's counter-motion. I welcome the opportunity to update the Dáil on progress in implementation of the National Drug Strategy and on our plans to provide additional funding for new initiatives to tackle drug and alcohol misuse. It's just over 18 months since the Government published their National Drug Strategy, Reducing Harm, Supporting Recovery, a health response to addressing the drugs and alcohol use in Ireland for 2017-2025. At its core, the values of compassion, respect, equity, inclusion. Sorry?
Not moving is okay.
No.
Are you moving an amendment?
No, yes, I am. Yeah, I'm speaking.
But if you'd move it.
I move. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
All right.
At its core values are the compassion, respect, equity, inclusion, partnership and an evidence information approach. The strategy represents an integrated public health response to substance misuse with the dual aim of reducing harm and supporting recovery. The first phase of the strategy for the period up to end 2020 contains 50 actions across 5 goals. The 5 goals are to promote and protect health and well-being, minimise the harm caused by the use of misuse of substance and promote rehabilitation and recovery, address the harm of drug market and reduce access to drugs for harmful use, support participation of individuals, families and communities, and develop sound and comprehensive evidence information, policies and actions. As a Minister with responsibility for the National Drug Strategy, my focus and my priorities is in the implementation of these actions. My officials recently presented the progress report on the strategy for 2018 and the planned activities for 2019 in the National Oversight Committee, which I am a chair. This committee has representatives from all relevant government departments, state agencies, drugs and alcohol task forces, voluntary organisations and community representation. Its remit is to give leadership, direction and prioritise the mobilisation of resources to support the implementation of the strategy. The progress report will be reviewed on an ongoing basis and during 2019 by a standing subcommittee. Progress will be further reported through Cabinet Committee B, chaired by An Taoiseach and associated with senior officials. I also want to put in here, I'm also very happy to attend the Oireachtas Joint Committee on Health to update the committee on their implementation of the strategy. Next year will see the launch of the mid-term evaluation of the strategy. It will allow all stakeholders the opportunity to reflect on the progress on implementation of the strategy and will identify what new actions should be made required for the period of 2025. The strategy commits to treating substance misuse and drug addiction as a public health issue. I therefore established a working group to consider alternative approaches to possession of drugs for personal use. To inform the group's deliberation, the Department of Health undertook a public consultation which generated over 20,000 responses online to questionnaires. I understand from the chair of the group, Mr Justin Sheehan, the group is finalising its report and will be submitted to me, to the Minister for Health, Minister for Justice and Equality and myself by the end of March. The Government is also tackling the alcohol problem as a public health matter. The Public Health Alcohol Bill was enacted in 17th of October 2018. It's a groundbreaking legislation which aims to reduce the harmful drinking for people of all ages and to create an environment where children won't be exposed to alcohol products or advertising. From November 2019, the Act will prohibit the alcohol advertisement at public transport stops or stations and within 200 metres of schools, early year centres or local authority playgrounds. As we all know, a key action in the National Drug Strategy is the establishment of a supervised injection facility. The purpose of the facility is to reduce the harm caused by injecting drugs and to address the problems of drug-related litter on the streets and our community. I am actually aware of the harm caused by injection drugs to people struggling with addiction. For those who inject them openly on the streets, they are at greater risk. Disregarded drug paraphernalia in communities also pose a risk to the members of the public. And the supervised injection facility is a major step forward in reducing these risks, to treating addiction as an illness and reducing deaths from overdoses. The supervised injection facility is a government policy and it is crucial that it opens as soon as possible. In 2018, the contract to operate the new service on a pilot basis was awarded to Merchants Quay, Following the tender process, Merchants Quay Ireland submitted an application for planning permission for the facility in October 2018. I understand the application is still under consideration by Dublin City Council, and further information on local services and a policing plan have been required. I am firmly committed to the SIF, and the officials in my department are working with various stakeholders to achieve this project. I also announced the establishment of a community fund in September 2018 to support the improvement in the physical and social environment in the area around Merchants Quay in the south-west inner city. The HSE National Service Plan 29 sets out priorities and actions for improving health outcomes for those with addiction issues. Specific actions are designed to expand community-based healthcare services, to minimise harm from misuse of substance, to strengthen governance and structures in treatment services, developing an integrated mental and addiction programme for recurring mental health and substance misuse concerns among at-risk groups, with new funding of over €1 million in 2019, rising to €2 million on the annual basis. The implementation of a new model of care for homeless people with complex and multi-needs, including addictions, as part of the Integrated Housing and Health Policy's response to the Housing First National Implementation Plan. Improve addiction treatment and rehabilitation services in the North Inner City in partnership with the NEIC Programme Implementation Board. I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the important work being done in communities by our 24 drug and alcohol task forces all across the country. They play a key role in assessing and extend the nature of the drug problem in taking appropriate responses to ensure that it is a coordinated approach involving all sectors in our local community. In 2018, the Department provided €28 million to drug and alcohol task forces through various channels of funding, including the HSE. Last year, I established the working groups to revise the update handbook for task forces, which was published in 2011. This work is currently ongoing in the Department in association with the key stakeholders and is lined to be finalised in Q2 of 2029. From this process, we will have a new code of governance for task forces, which is in line with best practice in the community, voluntary and charitable sector. My department will support the implementation of the code of governance in 2019. The revision of the task force handbook is an important step in the development of a performance measurement scheme, and implement plan of operational and performance measures will be developed by 2020. The HSE has monitoring and oversight responsibility on the drugs and alcohol task forces under its Section 39 governance framework to ensure that service providers are meeting identified needs and there is accountability and transparency for public money provided by the Department of Health. Yesterday, I was delighted to announce an additional €1 million in funding for the implementation of the National Drug Strategy this year. It isn't fair to say, I have to say, that this has only been announced. I did mention it a number of times in this chamber that there was new funding coming available to us. I hadn't at that time the figures, so I had already said it at a number of stages in this chamber and in the Shannon as well. The funding, which will be provided on a recurring monthly annual basis, will address the priorities set down in the strategy, including early harm reduction, response to emerging trends to substance misuse, including polydrug use, crack cocaine, improvement services at group at risk. It will complement enhancement in drug alcohol treatment services relating to mental health homeless issues under the 2019 HSE National Service Plan. Working in partnership with the statutory community value sectors is central to the response. I will be consulting with the drug and alcohol task forces and the HSE on how best to target this new funding. I have issued an invitation to the task force to a meeting in the Department of Health at the end of March to begin this process. This year, I also intend to develop 2 new schemes to deliver an integrated public health approach to drug and alcohol task force, which are set out in the new National Drug Strategy. This force will provide targeted approach and effective services for young people at risk of substance misuse, focusing on disadvantaged areas. The second will support evidence-based approaches to mobilisation, community action and alcohol. Both schemes will be funded of $250,000 on an annual basis. In conclusion, once again, I want to emphasise my belief in the health-led person-centred approach to addressing the issue of drugs and alcohol misuse in Ireland. My priority is to continue implementation of the National Drug Strategy, which will support the drug and alcohol task forces, and I am confident, as Concall, in working together, we can continue to build on the many achievements we have already achieved and furthermore into the future.